A very good morning and welcome all of you to the daily news analysis for 24th of March 2025. So today onwards we are going to resume the live session as was being done previously. Every day at 8:15 a.m. we will be starting with the daily news analysis live format now onwards. So these are the news articles. The Delhi High Court judge issue is going on. It's rocking the parliament, it's rocking the country and also the conscience of the Supreme Court itself. The inquiry committee appointed by the Delhi High Court Chief Justice with regard to 15 to 17 crore rupees worth of cash found in the storehouse of the Delhi High Court Judge Yashwant Verma has been made public. The inquiry committee report has been made public, a matter which was earlier. This is not the business as usual when it comes to the inquiry against the judges. We all know that it is a kind of closed mission in which judges protect themselves. But thanks to the media trial, or you can say the fourth pillar of the media this time, a report when it was published in the Times of India after 21st of March, things have picked up. But it remains to be seen whether this time again a judge would be protected or will this be taken to the logical conclusion. Justice Yashwant Verma of Delhi High Court was being transferred to Allahabad High Court. But Allahabad High Court Bar Council has said that we are not a trash bin, we are not a dustbin that you can send anybody with the corruption charges to Allahabad High Court for acting as a judge. So Allahabad High Court said that we will boycott and we will proceed on a strike. That is why immense pressure was put on the Supreme Court, and finally the Chief Justice of India, Sanjeev Khanna sir, he has finally decided to make the report public. After the report has been made public, now there is a lot of pressure on the judiciary itself, and Parliament is also taking an advantage of it. How is Parliament taking an advantage of it? In the Rajya Sabha especially, our Honorable Vice President, who happens to be the chairperson of Rajya Sabha, is putting pressure on the judiciary that NJAC should be allowed. So now it remains to be seen in the last 3 months itself what has happened is a judge in the judge's house, cash is being found. In another case, a judge made religiously colored remarks. Another judge made religiously colored remarks. We are talking about Justice Yadav. So in 3 months back to back, the charges of misconduct have come across in the judiciary. Okay, so now it remains to be seen whether National Judicial Appointment Commission thing will be revived all over again, whether we will see the introduction of the NJAC bill in the Parliament all over again. In 2014, this NJAC bill was in a way struck down by the Supreme Court, saying that it interferes. If the NJAC Act will be allowed, it will interfere with the proceeding of the judiciary. So this issue deserves a lot of analysis. Then US tariff looming. India looks at easing non-trade barriers. So we are in a way giving a kind of exchange kind of a thing to China, that if China improves the situation on the territorial borders, we are going to allow some relaxation in the chart of trade. That means insofar as trading is concerned, trade between export-import between China and India is concerned, we will be lenient with the Chinese imports to India, provided China is adhering to the boundary talks. You can say good sense that has to prevail. Okay, non-encroachment of the Indian borders, etc. So this is another issue, and through the negotiations with China, we are trying to put pressure on the United States to give some concessions to India insofar as tariff war is concerned. So these are the two issues which are going to be of importance today. Then these are the other issues. Supreme Court judges transfer is not related to rumors. We are going to cover this as an entire story today. Apart from this, guys, US tariff looming, this is what we have covered. We have shown you that we are going to cover this. India imposes anti-dumping duty on the Chinese good for up to 5 years. We are going to talk about these 5-6 items on which the anti-dumping duty has been imposed, even though we are talking about relaxation of the norms for Chinese foreign direct investment. Then, how global warming is affecting the world's mountain ranges. The need for universal and equitable health coverage in the light of the World TB Day. World Tuberculosis Day. India has made rapid strides when it comes to managing tuberculosis. So we are going to see this as well. The liquidity conundrum. Rate cuts need right balance in the financial system. So what is happening is RBI has taken certain steps to manage, to inject liquidity into the system so as to balance the growth as well as the interest rate and the demon of inflation. But what is happening is there is not enough liquidity into the system as of today. Even today also, despite n number of steps taken by RBI. So what should it do? What should be done? This is the kind of editorial on this thing. So first thing first, what is happening is ordinarily whenever something happens in the judiciary, the charges of corruption, a judge being caught red-handed, you talk about the district judges, session judges getting away with 70 lakh rupees, caught red-handed. A judge is caught red-handed in the Delhi Session Judge Patiala House Court, 30,000 Court, and they are allowed to go. Even the High Court judges, serious charges of corruption have come up. In the last 1-2 months, we have been talking about whether Lokpal has got jurisdiction on the misconduct, on the allegations of corruption against judges. Lokpal says yes. Supreme Court says no. Now another issue has come up where in the storehouse, we ordinarily keep our precious things in the locker, right? But 15-17 crore rupees is nothing for a judge. It is kept in the outhouse area where the judge says gardeners, CRPF jawans or Malis, everybody throngs that place. He says that is not a part of my house. So 17-18 crore rupees are nothing for a judge, High Court judge especially, and he says that this does not belong to me. Then the sequence of events. Then Delhi fire chief comes and says that the fire department did not find any cash during the fire incident at judge's place, at Yashwant Verma's place. So he denies the charges. But now Supreme Court itself has released a video, and the preliminary inquiry report. Inquiry was conducted by the Delhi High Court Chief Justice. The report has been made public along with the video footage of some fire personnel talking about Gandhi ji jal rahe hain, Mahatma Gandhi jal rahe hain, right? So those kind of things have come up. Now the judiciary is under serious pressure. This is not a one-off incident. We will talk about the editorial also. There is an editorial in the Indian Express. This is the editorial, An Open Justice. This is the first time that the revelations, the findings of the preliminary inquiry have been made public. And going further, the CJI of India has now constituted a 3-member committee comprising of the two chief justices, including one of Punjab and Haryana High Court and one more judge of one of the southern states. Okay, so what is happening is this 3-member inquiry committee, ordinarily as per the Judges Inquiry Act, it is constituted by the Parliament, right? When the impeachment motion is introduced in the Parliament, the trigger happens ordinarily on the cognizance of the matter, on the motion, impeachment motion, removal motion being introduced in either Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. In the Lok Sabha, the motion for removal of a judge can be taken up only after the signatures of 100 MPs of Lok Sabha. The motion is submitted to the Speaker, and it is up to the Speaker whether to accept the motion or not. The Speaker may reject it. Okay, this is the discretion of the Speaker. But now what is happening is here the Rajya Sabha can also take the cognizance. Rajya Sabha can also admit a motion provided the motion in Rajya Sabha is signed by 50 MPs. 100 MPs in Lok Sabha. Why? Because the number of MPs in Lok Sabha is around more than double the number of MPs in Rajya Sabha. So this is how the inquiry actually starts. The process of removal of a judge actually starts. But this time, since the charges were being dealt with internally by the CJI of India, by the Chief Justice of Delhi High Court, so Chief Justice of Delhi High Court has himself constituted a 3-member inquiry committee without matter being taken up by the Parliament in the form of a removal motion. Okay, so ordinarily removal motion is brought about, and then 3-member committee is formed, and then charges are investigated. And based upon the charges, both the houses vote whether judge needs to be removed or judge can continue. Okay, removal motion or impeachment motion is voted upon based upon the findings of the inquiry. Now in this case, the Supreme Court has itself constituted a 3-member inquiry committee. So the question in prelims can be, can the inquiry committee be constituted by the CJI for the removal of a judge or for investigating the charges on its own? Yes. Answer in the prelims would be yes for this thing. Okay. Ordinarily, the Judges Inquiry Act 1968 says that first a motion needs to be taken up. Now, coming to the other aspects of this issue, as I said, another related issue is going on is whether Lokpal has got the jurisdiction or not. As per Lokpal, yes. As per the Supreme Court, no. Okay, so we will see this analysis in some other day's news analysis. I'll repeat it, even though we have dealt with it in the last 1 month at least twice or thrice. The Lokpal issue that is going on. Lokpal says it has got jurisdiction. Now the problem in India is judges appoint themselves. Judges can decide about themselves. They keep the findings of the inquiry, allegations of corruption opaque. They are not released into the public. This is the first time that CJI, Sanjeev Khanna in this case, has released the findings of the preliminary inquiry. Ordinarily, they are kept secret because this might malign the image of a judge. But in Yashwant Verma's case, Justice Yashwant Verma's case, the kind of blot has already happened, damage has already been done, but judiciary seems to be now preventing the damage done by the individual to himself and to the institution. At least that should be kept till the individual only. The individual damage should not be allowed to tarnish the image of the institution judiciary in this case. So that is why earlier judiciary was also dilly-dallying that nothing has happened. The transfer orders of the judge are not related to the preliminary inquiry that is being conducted on the allegations of cash found at the justice's house. So this is the problem here, right? Mere transfer, asking the judge to proceed on leave or resignation is not enough. India has never been able to impeach even a single judge. Talk of Delhi High Court, talk of Supreme Court. The moment the impeachment motion is voted upon, they resign immediately. Okay, the last step after the impeachment motion, after the motion for removal of judge is passed, is the signatures of the president. President finally issues the order removing the judge. Before the president signs the order, the judge resigns, so as to avoid the charges. Now in this case, Delhi police is also at fault. What has happened is Delhi police, they did not record the seizure report that is there. They would have seized the cash. Who was the authority, whether it was Delhi Fire Service Department or Delhi police, who was stashing away the cash? On 15th of March, 14th of March, the fire happened. 15th of March, notes, the currency notes, the half-burnt currency notes were removed. Delhi police is also at fault here. Why the seizure report, the property that is seized by the Delhi police in such cases, it's to be prepared. It has not been prepared. So Supreme Court was also earlier dilly-dallying, but thanks to the media pressure, thanks to the investigative journalism, some of the media channels, they went outside in the precincts area of the justice's house, but they found some half-burnt notes there. You must have seen the media reports also. Okay, so this is a serious issue here. Now, motion we have talked about. Insofar as our examination is concerned, Judges Inquiry Act becomes important. From today onwards, I'll be posting 5 to 10 questions on the Telegram channel that you can attempt with regard to the current affairs. Okay, those questions will be of top-notch quality insofar as coverage of current affairs is concerned. Even though I had thought that we will start some series around current affairs MCQs on this YouTube channel, but that will take some time. Until then, we can practice the current affairs on the Telegram channel, the current affairs MCQs. Every day, 7 to 10 questions I will be posting through the day, and those questions, their answers will be enough for you to at least attempt 25-30 questions in the preliminary exam every year. Right now, motion thing you have to read once. I have explained it. Coming to the allegations, now in-house inquiry procedure. Ordinarily, judges, the judiciary has been conducting in-house inquiry. They do not allow the parliament, the executive to interfere. CBI cannot take cognizance of a corruption case or allegations of corruption against a judge unless it is permitted by the Chief Justice of India. So it seems that the circus is going on where judges have been protecting themselves so far. This is the first time that the revelations of the preliminary inquiry have been made public. Now, what is the in-house inquiry procedure? In 2015 case, the Supreme Court judgment in the additional district judge, session judge X, his name was also not revealed. गोपनीय रखा जाता है ये सब. Everything is kept secret so that the image of the judge is not maligned, so that he can sit as a judge again. In this case, the judge was transferred to Allahabad, Prayagraj, the city of Mahakumbh. Maybe he will take a holy dip in the waters of Ganga even after Mahakumbh has ended. Maybe he will become a pure soul again and will again start stashing the cash. So that is why Allahabad, this bar council has said that हम कोई कचरे का डब्बा नहीं है कि कोई भी करप्ट जज को आप यहाँ पे भेज देंगे. So these were the words of the Allahabad Bar Council chief there. Now in this case, in-house inquiry procedure has two stages. Stage 1, the High Court Chief Justice prima facie, he assesses the charges, because charges might be triggered by some ulterior motives, some vested interest to get the judge removed. Since judges are higher order functionaries, they are constitutional functionaries, so any Tom, Dick and Harry might level some corruption charges. Corruption charges may be unfounded, just to malign the image of a judge, just to not allow him to be promoted to the higher level or Supreme Court. So that is why preliminary inquiry is conducted by the Chief Justice of the concerned High Court, even though it is a additional district judge, lower judiciary or High Court judges. Then if some substance is found to the allegations, iota of truth is there, then at the second stage, if the High Court Chief Justice recommends deeper investigation, deeper probe, the CJI forms a 3-member committee to investigate the charges. This is what we have been doing now. So there are two ways to investigate the allegations of corruption. One is out of the house, where the parliament starts the motion for removal. Number 1, Judges Inquiry Act. Number 2, procedure for in-house inquiry. There are two ways to remove a judge. These are the two ways. Okay. Now, Article 222, a judge of the one High Court may be transferred to another High Court by the President after consulting the Chief Justice of India. In the other day's news analysis also, we had seen that the call taken by the Chief Justice of India, insofar as the transfer of a judge is concerned, is the final. Okay, even though there is a formality of consultation with the other judges, the collegium, the 4 senior most judges of the Supreme Court are also consulted. But CJI's call is more or less final insofar as just the transfer is concerned. When it comes to promotion, etc., collegium's voting is required. Okay, the kind of how many judges are in favor, how many judges are not in favor of a judge being promoted. But when it comes to transfer, guys, the transfer can happen merely on the basis of the call taken by the Chief Justice of India. So CJI has got a predominant say in the matters of the transfer. Judicial review of the transfers, it is extremely limited. So if I file a PIL, or if the Allahabad Bar Council says that please review the transfer of a judge to the Allahabad High Court, the Yashwant Verma case, if a corrupt judge is transferred from Delhi High Court to Allahabad High Court and Allahabad High Court Bar Council says that please review this order, Supreme Court can say no. Why? Because review is very limited. On the matters of the transfer, the judiciary does not, the Supreme Court does not entertain the pleas ordinarily for review of the transfer orders of the judge. Okay, so this is how what happens is, if any ordinary citizen like you and me, if we are caught with some so much of cash at our residence, Enforcement Directorate, CBI and hell lot of the government agencies will be at your residence arresting you, etc., etc., right? But in case of judges, see the audacity, see the bravery that a judge knows that no one can come and raid his premises, and he keeps the cash with open brazenness, besharmi se, open brazenness, he is keeping the cash at his residence, no fear whatsoever. Why? Because of separation of powers. He knows that CBI etc. cannot knock at his doors. but fire caught him this time, right? So this is there. Now, this is all that thing is going on. An open justice editorial, we will quickly conclude this. The Chief Justice of India has set up a 3-member panel for an in-house inquiry, setting in motion the constitutional process for dealing with the complaints. So this is in-house inquiry is also a constitutional process. As I said, there are two ways. One is Judges Inquiry Act, the motion for removal of the judge, and another is the in-house procedure wherein a judge can be removed after a 3-member inquiry is conducted by the judiciary itself. Okay. Meanwhile, the judicial work has also been withdrawn from Justice Verma. These are exemplary moves by CJI Khanna, the Chief Justice of India. He has sent out a much needed signal that the court will privilege the imperative of institutional transparency. CJI Khanna is emphasizing more upon the institutional transparency than protecting just one judge. Okay, rather than protecting one of their own, it's better to undo the damage that is being done to the judicial system as a whole, judiciary's integrity as a whole. It sets a new benchmark for handling complaints. New benchmark, a kind of trend has now been set that going forward, judges will have a fear of law. Judges will not feel comfortable in the fact that now the judiciary will not protect themselves. Okay, so they will have a fear that the Chief Justice or the Supreme Court, which earlier used to protect such corrupt judges, now is not going to protect them. So this is a new benchmark of transparency that has been set by the incumbent Chief Justice of India, Sanjeev Khanna. Okay, individual members of the institution that is tasked with the custodianship of core principles and fundamental values of constitutional democracy. जब बाढ़ ही खेत को खाए, when fence eats the farm. So Supreme Court is setting a benchmark now that integrity of those who are tasked with the custodianship of constitutional democracy, rule-based democracy. Okay, so that is what is more important here. Now, this is the second instance of an in-house inquiry in just over 3 months. In less than, you can say, 90 plus days, 100 days maximum, 2 such instances of in-house inquiry have come up. In December, the same justice, the same CJI Khanna had stepped in when the complaints were made after Allahabad High Court Judge Justice Shekhar Yadav made a controversial speech on the Uniform Civil Code. So these are the cases of misconduct, corruption being one of them. Some extraneous remarks, religiously controversial remarks being second. There are many forms of misconduct, but 2 have come to light in just 3 months. That is why the seriousness is being seen here insofar as this matter of conduct of judge is concerned. The judiciary today is more and more under public glare. Public is watching everything. You have YouTube channels showing the internal proceedings of the courts these days, the remarks made by the judges these days, and the conduct of judges is also being scrutinized by media, by YouTube channels, by citizenry, the citizens who are active now. They are not the passive recipients of justice. So that is why within and outside the courtroom, there is a constant scrutiny of the conduct of judges. The judiciary's old methods, earlier what used to happen, of dealing with a case of corruption or an instance of indiscipline through a punitive transfer. Punitive transfer means judge will be judge of a good high court, of a popular high court, renowned high court like Delhi High Court, Allahabad High Court. He would be transferred to Sikkim High Court, or he would be transferred to some obscure high court as a punishment posting, which will reduce his chances of further promotion. But was it enough? Why would judges not be subjected to Article 14, right to equality, when the same kind of thing has been abolished? Any kind of extra privileges to IAS officers, to ministers have been abolished by the court through Lily Thomas judgment, that if any corruption charges, if any case is filed against a politician, he is ineligible for contesting elections, or if he is a sitting MP or MLA, he will have to resign. He will be disqualified. But judges are only transferred, or judicial work is not given to them. Is it enough? That is why now the sense is falling upon the judiciary. In Justice Verma's case, when a collegium recommended him for a transfer to his parent High Court, Allahabad High Court Bar Association was quick to protest strongly against being seen as a trash bin for such a corrupt judge to be transferred to Allahabad High Court. Okay, political argument. Now, government. Now, see, even though there is a lot of sensation being raked around this controversy, but we have to see that during the Indira Gandhi era, during the Congress era, 1970s, when the executive had a predominant say in the matters of appointment of judges, then also a different kind of damage was done to the institution of judiciary. Judges were handpicked, favorite judges who will be aligned with the vision of the government, who would be giving the judgments which are favorable to the ruling political dispensation, ruling political party. They were being chosen. So that is why judiciary, through the advocates cases, through the three advocates cases, 1994, 1998. Okay, so what did judiciary say? That President can appoint the judges only after effective consultation with the Chief Justice of India plus plurality of judges. Now we have an option. We have to choose. As a country, we have to decide if executive should be given a say in the matter of appointment of judges, or judges should be allowed to appoint themselves, as is the case happening now with judges. Even though judges appointing themselves has got its own problems, but if the government will get a predominant say in the matter of appointment of judges, that will have some unwarranted consequences for the judiciary as an institution, for India as a constitutional democracy. Why? Because then we will see the phenomena of committed judiciary, wherein government favorite judges, government judges, judges who are aligned with the vision and version of the government, they only will be chosen. Then we will become a kind of system where judges are of the government, for the government and by the government. Right, so this is the problem. We have to choose between the two sides now. Even though this controversy is going on, Honorable Rajya Sabha chairperson and the Vice President of India, who's been a strong votary of government's check, Parliament's check on the judges, he is now seizing of this matter, seizing this opportunity to again revive the debate on National Judicial Appointments Commission Act. He says that this institution of Parliament in 2014 had passed NJAC Act so as to set the system of appointment of judges in order. Since it was struck down by the judiciary, that is why he says that these type of problems are happening. Problems in the form of corrupt judges being elevated to the higher levels of judiciary. So he says that because there is a problem with the matter of appointment of judges, that is why we are seeing the corrupt judges cases coming to light day in and day out. He says that if the matter of appointment will be set right, then things will fall in place. But is it right? Then we will see another problem where all the judgments will be in favor of the government. You talk about many controversial judgments where government is not on the right footing. Government is not always right. That is why to uphold the constitutional form of government, we need to strike a balance between how the judges are appointed, how they are removed, what is the role of judiciary itself, should any role be given to the Bar Council insofar as consultation for appointment or removal or transfer of judges is concerned. That is the case here. Now for the judiciary, even though the political executive, the Parliament, is trying to grab this opportunity to twist the argument in favor of National Judicial Appointments Commission, we need to see whether this is the right way or not. Now talking about judiciary, this will be a test case for how it handles the cases where one of its own is in the dock fairly and firmly and is seen to do so. So justice should not only be done in this case to Justice Verma, but justice should also be perceived to have been done. This is what this news says that, okay, what is at stake here is not just the conduct of individual judge, but the principle of the independence of judiciary that anchors a system of checks and balances. So this is all in this issue here. We have clubbed up the editorial as well as the news here. You know 2-3 facts which are important for prelims, and you also know the analytical part, whether NJAC is going to be a remedy, is going to be a panacea insofar as the malaise in the judiciary is concerned. Now moving further, US tariff looming. With the sword of US tariffs dangling on India, India is now siding with China insofar as allowing Chinese FDI is concerned. So we are trying to negotiate with the United States of America in this tariff war, where US is threatening India, BRICS countries with the tariff war, and we have been negotiating with the United States so as to give India a concessional treatment, but that does not seem to be happening. So what is the way out? If your US India, they are not agreeing, and US is not agreeing to India's request, India is now using China as the bargaining chip. India says that we will allow the import of Chinese goods provided there is some sincerity to the concerns of India insofar as border dispute is concerned. So if China is accommodating our concerns in the matters of territorial disputes, we are ready to accommodate Chinese concerns in the matters of trade. Even though India has got a huge trade deficit with China, $50 billion worth of trade deficit. You see these numbers here. Okay, every year our trade deficit has been increasing. 2020, India's exports to China were around $19 billion. China's exports were $59 billion roughly. Now 2021, $23 billion, $87 billion, 2022, 15, then China $102 billion, then 2024, $8 billion. Figures are till Jan and July only. Now here 50 point till from Jan to July, roughly 6 months and 1 month additional, 7 months, the import deficit, you can say that trade deficit is around again $41 billion. If the complete year we see $100 billion worth of trade deficit, but we are ready to accommodate that. India says that only request that India has is that China should be sensitive to India's territorial concerns. What are territorial concerns? Arunachal Pradesh people. China says that Arunachal Pradesh is a part of China, the old era China of 14th century, etc. India says that you are issuing stapled visas to our citizens from Arunachal Pradesh. You talk about Olympics, etc. So the players from Arunachal Pradesh state, Indian Arunachal Pradesh state, when they go to China, China issues the stapled visas that you are Chinese own people, and just for the formality we are issuing you a visa. Okay, then there are concerns about Pangong Tso Lake, Deepsang Valley, etc. China has been encroaching upon our territorial borders, territorial areas, which is what is our concern. Now, South China Sea, freedom of navigation, etc. Okay, so those are the concerns of India. If China is able to understand those concerns, then we are ready, India as a country is ready to allow the further imports of Chinese goods into India at a concessional customs duty. Why this is being done? This is being done to have a fair deal from the United States of America, right? To get some discounts, to get some premium treatment, from relaxed treatment from the United States of America amidst this trade war that is going on, tariff war that is going on. US President says that he wants to make America great again. But in the process of making America great again, US President Donald Trump is severing, or you can say spoiling the ties, the trade ties with India, with the countries like India, South Korea, every country almost, even European Union. But now India has to save its own skin. How would it save? India says that now we are ready insofar as Chinese FDI relaxation is concerned. Now there are two options. If we want that on the current account, the import export, the people's movement, etc. Okay, trade, the imports and the exports. Okay, we have an adverse balance of trade with China. Insofar as our imports are concerned, imports are more, exports are less, leading to a situation where China, there is a lot of outflow of dollars to China. China is winning here. Now to offset this, can't we have an FDI, foreign direct investment, coming from the Chinese companies? Okay, China will invest money. This will be a kind of capital investment from Chinese companies. Capital investment from China into India, if FDI will come. This kind of a situation, this kind of an arrangement will offset the adverse impact of the negative trade balance with China. Okay, we will get a lot of Chinese companies investing into India, even though as of now the criteria is very strict. What is the criteria? Ministry of Home Affairs approval is required, and China cannot invest in areas of the northeastern states because of the Arunachal thing, that the claim on the areas of India by China by releasing the old era maps showing that Arunachal was a part of China. So because of that, now the criteria is very strict. India says that we will have some relaxed criteria for Chinese FDI inflows into India, provided some semblance of sensitivity to India's concerns insofar as territorial dispute is concerned is seen in the further talks. Special representative talks between India's Ministry of External Affairs, India's National Security Advisor, and the Chinese counterpart have been going on since Atal Bihari Vajpayee era to resolve the border dispute. But that hasn't seen a conclusion to it. Rather, China has been releasing more and more such maps showing vital parts of India as a part of its own territory. So if that SAR point, points like China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, okay, passing through POK region, Pakistan occupied region, if this territorial angle is resolved to India's satisfaction, or some progress is at least seen on that matter, then India is ready to have this kind of an arrangement insofar as trade is concerned. So it's a kind of trade will go hand in hand with territorial dispute. And this entire bilateral issue between India and China is being used as a bargaining chip for India to extract some good deal from the United States insofar as US tariff war is concerned. This is in the small way we can in a way paraphrase this issue, right? US is not giving us the tariff concession that we are seeking from the United States of America. Despite good handshake between Prime Minister Modi and President Donald Trump, nothing is happening on paper. Now, moving further, on the investment front, there are indicators that the Indian side is now open to allowing inflows from the Beijing, from China, as a countermeasure to the widening trade deficit between the two countries. Despite the many restrictions as on date, trade flows continue to be remarkably in favor of China. Relaxation of approval by the center for FDI proposals from Chinese companies. So what will happen over a period of time? Chinese companies will be having a lot of exposure on the Indian soil. If China will take any kind of wrong step by spoiling ties with India, Chinese companies' revenue, Chinese companies' capital investment would be at a stake in India. So this will, one school of thought, one school of analysts, they say that if this kind of a dependency of China on India and India on China will be there, then China will think twice, thrice before taking any adverse step on the border. If India is the attractive market for US companies, so is it for Chinese companies as well. So why not use as our market potential, India's market potential, as a bargaining chip to mend China's behavior towards India? So this is there. Now, US angle to mending trade ties, this I have explained to you. Coming to this, India imposes anti-dumping duty on Chinese goods. So what is anti-dumping duty? Anti-dumping duty is, first of all, it is in compliance with WTO norms. WTO says that if any country is importing goods into another country, for example, if China here is sending goods to India, is selling goods to India at a price way below the normal price, then there seems to be an element of subsidy. China is providing subsidy to its companies. Okay, some government concessions are being provided, leading to a situation where steel, which is otherwise 100, let's say it is for $100 per quintal, okay, per 100 kg of steel. If this China is providing some kind of a concession, some subsidy, leading to a situation where $20 comes down, price comes down by $20, and it is now $80 for every 100 kg. Whereas in India, the normal cost of production is around the same, $102 for every 100 kg of steel. So this is a case of anti-dumping. Chinese factories, they say that we are going to close. China says that no, don't close. We will provide you the subsidy. Chinese government will provide the subsidy to steel company, and steel company can continue the operations. But what will happen is this steel would be sold off to India at a price that is way below the normal price. If this happens, Indian companies, steel manufacturing companies, will shut down in a matter of 2 to 3 years. To save this phenomena, what is India doing is, at this border point, India is India is going to levy anti-dumping duty. Okay, this is sometimes confused with countervailing duty also, but more or less they are overlapping here. So you have to understand that there are certain items, these duties are soft ferrite cores, then certain thickness of vacuum insulated flask, then polyvinyl chloride paste resin. All these items are being dumped into Indian market. To stop this phenomena, what is China doing? What is India doing? India is now going to impose an extra duty that is called as anti-dumping duty. How is this anti-dumping duty imposed? The officers, the officials of our India's Ministry of Commerce or Department of Trade, this is the technical name of it, Directorate General of Trade Remedies, Directorate General of Trade Remedies from the Ministry of Commerce, they go to China or they study the documents of the trade or whatever subsidy is being provided to China. Based upon their investigation, they recommend the ministry to impose such a duty. Okay, so Directorate General of Trade Remedies report or recommendations are required here just to comply with the formality of compliance with WTO regulations. All right, so this is there. Now moving further, the liquidity conundrum. Rate cuts need the right balance in financial system. So what is the balance? Even though RBI, let me paraphrase this first of all, RBI has been on a liquidity injection spree. Sequence of steps have been taken, that means to inject liquidity into the system. But despite the steps being taken, growth is not being revived. People, the industrial corporates, Adanis, Reliance, Ambanis, they are not borrowing money. So what to do? How to revive the growth? Because revival of growth is important insofar as generation of new employment avenues is concerned. New employment, GDP growth, revenue, money, everything depends upon the growth. And in order to revive growth, RBI has been showing some accommodative policy stance. Accommodative policy stance means what? Despite the increase in the inflation, despite inflation being above the normal level, RBI has been cutting rates. Rate of interest to repo rate, etc., they have been cut. Despite that, Indian financial system is having a liquidity shortage. So why is it so? Let's understand. First of all, what are the steps taken by RBI in the recent last few months? So there are some indicators. First of all, these indicators show that there is a lack of liquidity or liquidity shortage is quite visible in the system. If liquidity shortage is visible, so what are the steps taken? First of all, the 10-year bond yields have dropped to a 3-year low. That means the money being earned on the bonds has come down. Because there is no money in the system, bonds are not being sold, not being exchanged between the people who have already bought them and the people who want them. Corporate bond yields and certificate of deposit rates are rising. So that means corporate world is ready to pay higher interest rate for the money that they require. That means there is lack of liquidity into the system. If there was enough liquidity, enough cash in the system, with the banking system, with the non-banking financial corporations, etc., financial companies, etc., the rates would not have been rising. Right? So if rates are rising, that means what? People require money, industrial corporates, MSMEs, they require money, but they are not getting money at the reasonable rate of interest. So this is their spreads. What do we mean by spread? The interest rate differentials between the repo rate and corporate bonds and between the government securities and corporate and state bonds are widening. So on one hand, there is, on one hand, the official rate of RBI is less. The repo rate is less. Official repo rate is less, indicating that the rate of borrowing, actual borrowing in the market, would also be less. But no, this rate is high even though the official repo rate is on the lower side. This is the spread, as we call it. Imagine this to be a piece of bread and the jam here is available at a lower price. RBI is saying that, let's say jam is the rate of interest is lower here. But when you check at the other end of the spectrum, other end of the bread here, the borrower is getting the money at a higher rate of interest. Even though the lender is saying, the chief lender, RBI is saying that we are offering money at a reasonable rate of interest. Mr. Adani, Mr. Ambani, Mr. Tata, you come and borrow the money. But when they go out to borrow, Tata's or Tata's manager, Reliance, they come with the empty bag. Why? Because the rate of interest is higher than what is being told officially. Why would this happen? This is the problem. RBI's liquidity management efforts. Even though RBI has taken certain steps to manage the liquidity, to meet the requirement of the corporates, private sector companies, government borrowing, for government programs, but these efforts have not yielded the benefit that was expected of them. RBI is conducting swaps to inject liquidity. $10 billion worth of currency swap. Okay, dollars have been borrowed at a lower rate of interest and money has been injected into the system. Okay, so $10 billion worth of dollars. Previous swaps were conducted in February and January. So January, February, we are standing at March. So many steps have been taken. Variable repo rate. So daily variable repo rate auctions are used to inject liquidity into the banks. Today's rate is something else. If SBI has got some extra money, it can lend to PNB. If PNB is in need of money, SBI is having a decent cash, but these variable repo rates, etc., they are also not yielding the benefit. Then open market operations. What are open market operations? Open market operations are the operations conducted by RBI to inject liquidity into the system by buying the government bonds. If I am RBI, you have bonds, you are the banks, you give bonds to me, I give you money in return. So you being the banks, you will have more money. If you have more money, you will be able to lend it to corporates, to retail borrowers who want to buy a car or build a house or buy a property. This way the money should be decently available in the system, but that is not happening. RBI is buying the government bonds to provide liquidity. Rupees $1 trillion, 1 trillion, sorry, rupees it is. Okay, so much of liquidity is being injected, but it is not reaching the problem, reaching the ground level, reaching the actual borrower. So what are the sources of liquidity? Cash reserve ratio. What is cash reserve ratio? If you go, this is you or me, we go to the SBI, banker to every individual, we deposit this 100 rupees. Out of this 100 rupees, bank has to keep 4 rupees aside and then it can lend 96 rupees to anyone. Other things being kept aside. We are talking only about cash reserve ratio. Okay, this 4 rupees will be kept aside for as a reserve cash. If in case the borrower comes, if in case the depositor, this is the depositor, he comes back and wants his money back. So then 4 rupees has to be kept reserve for every 100 rupees. Now RBI has been thinking to reduce the cash reserve ratio from 4% to 3%. So that banks will be required to keep only 3 rupees instead of 4 rupees earlier. Okay, so this will give a benefit that banks will be able to lend additional 1 rupee for every 100 rupees being deposited. Imagine if this is 100 crore rupees, additional 1 crore rupees will be available. Right. So if this happens, so what is going to happen? RBI had cut the repo rate by 50 basis points. To 4%, from 4.5% to 4%. Now 1.1 with this effort, with this step of RBI, wherein 0.50 basis points repo rate was cut. So what happened? 1.12 additional trillion dollars that were lying with the banking system, banks were able to lend it further. This also did not quench the demand for money. This also did not satisfy the demand of money for the India's burgeoning market. Corporates need money which was not sufficiently met. Now, however, there is a limited scope. So RBI Act says that even if RBI wants to reduce the cash reserve ratio, there is only limited scope. Why? Because the Act says that statutory requirement is that minimum cash reserve ratio has to be 3%. RBI cannot reduce it below 3% because it will then jeopardize, it will then put the interest of the depositors into danger. How? Then entire money being deposited in the banks will be lent to, might be, people might be like Vijay Mallya, Nirav Modi, etc. So this will be very risky. At least 3% of the money has to be kept aside. Got it? So this is there. However, there is limited scope to use this tool further as RBI Act sets a 3% limit. Which RBI Act are we talking about? RBI Act 1934. Okay, there are other acts also. Banking Companies Regulation Act 1949, which talks about scheduled commercial banks and other things. But here we are talking about RBI Act 1934. So currency in circulation and surplus cash with the government are other factors influencing liquidity. So imagine this to be a prelims question. What are the factors influencing liquidity? Cash reserve ratio. Okay, then currency in circulation. We know about M1, M2, M3. All right, basic economics, currency in circulation. Then third could be your government deficit. How much fiscal deficit government is planning to finance from public sector banks, from the by borrowing from the banking system. If government's fiscal deficit is going to be more, then what will happen? Private sector will not get enough money in the form of borrowing. So this is there. Now, when the currency held by the public rises, it flows out of the system, tightening the liquidity. This typically happens during the festivals, October, Deepavali season. Okay, people withdraw money from the banks, ATMs, and they keep in the cash form. This is the withdrawal of the money from the formal banking system. Finally, money moves between the banking system and the government's balance sheet, depending upon whether the government is spending or holding cash in its coffers. So whether the government is going to hold the cash into the bank account, it is not going to spend, then also the liquidity problem will arise. If the government spends a lot, Manrega wages, government social programs, Indira Gandhi National Old Age Pension Scheme, or cash for Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, likewise various programs. If the money is given to the people, people will spend money. It will go to private companies, Parle-G, Sunsilk, FMCG goods. So that will revive the demand, and the money will in turn come back to the government. So this could be one way. The healthiest source of liquidity is another source is foreign funds. If the foreign institutional investors or foreign direct investment is coming into India, so these are the sources of money. All these options have been tried. In February, the FDI, the investors, they pulled out lagbhag around 35,000 crore rupees. So this is an outflow of money. Earlier, FIIs would come into India. They will invest money into India. This will inject liquidity, and we would have a surplus cash. India's forex reserves were rising to a record level. But now, since they are withdrawing, this is causing problem for RBI, that we do not have enough liquidity because we have developed a habit of relying on the foreign institutional investors' temporary money that was flowing into India, in the India stock market. Okay, so temporary flow of money is another problem. To effectively boost economic growth alongside interest rate reductions, RBI needs to ensure adequate liquidity within the financial system. To boost economic growth, economy is like this tandoor, you can see. Okay, if you are putting more money, then only economy will heat up. Then only this tandoor, this baking stove will heat up. And only if it heats up, more chapatis in the form of production will happen. But if you are not injecting money, the tandoor will not heat up. It will not heat up. No manufacturing, no service activity. This will lead to a further decline in the growth rate, leading to further unemployment, leading to lesser tax collection in the form of GST, income tax payment for the financial year. Okay, this is a slippery slope. Now, to achieve this objective, RBI is likely to need to increase its overall financial holdings. That means RBI's overall financial holdings balance sheet, asset side of the RBI's balance sheet, assets and liabilities. Okay, RBI can print more money, but this will be a liability. Assets are the government securities it is holding. Okay, investing into the government open market operations. This can be one way through which RBI can increase its asset side. Now, dollar rupee buy sell swaps, which would expand its foreign currency assets. So what will RBI do? RBI will borrow dollars for the long term rather than short term, and in return convert these dollars into rupees for Indian markets demand for investment. So this can be there. Given the recent strengthening of rupee and weakening of the dollar, the RBI could effectively inject liquidity by combining long term dollar rupee swaps with the open market operations. Okay, so today we are dealing a lot of editorials, also a bit of news articles also. This was an editorial on economy. We have dealt with an editorial on the judges, the Delhi High Court controversy that is going on. Okay, then we dealt with the China related. India might ease the FDI norms for Chinese companies to invest in India to offset the trade imbalance between India and China, guys. So these are the topics that we've dealt with. Now coming to another editorial, tuberculosis. This editorial says that we have made rapid strides insofar as eradication of or controlling of TB is concerned. World TB Day, on this occasion of World TB Day, these editorials have appeared in the Hindu newspaper and Indian Express. So we have chosen one of the best editorials here. India has demonstrated significant strides in combating tuberculosis, implementing innovative approaches to detection, treatment and prevention of tuberculosis. Now this progress marked by the expansion of rapid molecular testing. Number one, the introduction of rapid molecular testing. Number two, effective BPA-LM drug regimen. So the new drugs that have been introduced for management of TB. Name two, three drugs that are there. Okay, Sandeep and others, the ones who have just joined in. So from now onwards, DNA will be held live because I was keeping busy with the other things. That is why it was happening in the recorded mode. Every day around 8 or 8:15 a.m. daily news analysis will be there. Today we were a bit late because resuming DNA after a gap of like 10-15 days again in the live format had its own teething problems. From tomorrow onwards it will be on time, and as I said, we will be dealing more with the editorials which are of the conceptual nature. And do let us know your thoughts on DNA being of 1 to 1.5 hours. Okay, earlier I was working under some constraints to reduce it to a time bound complete it in a time bound manner because of my other classes. Now a bit of this kind of a leeway is there that I can stretch it to 1.5 hours also to help you cover your editorials and important news analysis in a holistic manner, so that this daily news analysis, not the daily current affairs, can be a one-stop solution for your current affairs. Okay, I would want to deal it in my way. If your thoughts would be important here, if you are all going to reply to all the MCQs from now onwards, to all the questions, we can make it a vibrant, one of the best news analysis over here. Your cooperation is also required. Your views, your joining in live every day in the morning motivates me as a teacher also. Otherwise it becomes just an ordinary news analysis, right? So this is why I will answer all your queries, Sandeep and others. So 2-3 things are there: answering MCQs, joining in live daily, and your viewpoint on whether we can stretch it to beyond 1 hour, not more than 1.5 hours, duly taking care of all the important editorials in Hindu, Indian Express and factual news also, including from PIB if required. Okay, so this is going to be question for you today, apart from the other MCQs that you are supposed to answer. So what are the drugs that are there in the TB regimen? Very important drugs these are, and one of the drugs has always been in scarcity. So what is the name of that drug which is required to control TB? Then enhanced nutritional support and the strategic use of preventive therapies has yielded tangible results. India has witnessed a 17-18% decline in tuberculosis incidence. This data is important. 18% decline in the TB incidence, TB cases, and 21.4% decline in the deaths owing to TB. Remember, 21% reduction in the deaths. So this is the achievement. Why are we discussing this editorial? Because World TB Day is being celebrated. Okay, now why the TB cases have come down? Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana covers TB. Okay, and then Ayushman Arogya Mandirs, National Health Policy 2017 talks about setting up 1,50,000 primary health centers or revamping the existing primary health and wellness centers and rechristening them as Ayushman Arogya Mandirs. Ayushman Arogya Mandirs is the Hindi nomenclature name for primary health and wellness centers. Earlier centers were only primary health centers. Now these primary health and wellness centers will have the testing capability, wherein the sputum can be, sputum in Hindi, it's the sample of your saliva given for testing of TB. Okay, so this Ayushman Arogya Mandirs now function as sputum collection centers. Okay, so this sputum is now tested here itself to tell whether a patient is suffering from tuberculosis or it's just an other ordinary cough. Okay, so if it is a cough, so that will be told at Ayushman Arogya Mandir only, primary health center only. This is what leads to proper diagnosis of the cases at the hospital nearby the patient. Patient does not have to go to district hospital or some higher hospital. So this is the benefit of proper diagnosis, the nearby diagnosis near the residential area, which is what is another way to detect TB at an early stage. If the TB is detected at an early stage, person knows that he is suffering from a communicable disease, he is given mask, etc., and his treatment starts at the earlier stage. He is in a way not spreading the disease to the other people, his family members, etc. National Tuberculosis Elimination Program is optimizing sample collection and transportation. National TB Elimination Program, sample transportation, so that the samples quality is not diluted on the way. India being a tropical country, the samples get destroyed, or you can say diluted, or the quality of the sample is lost on the way. Patients diagnosed at the secondary tertiary care can receive treatment at the local this Ayushman Arogya Mandirs also. So what happens is, if a TB patient is told to come to district hospital, if he is a laborer, somebody who chews tobacco and he cannot afford the travel charges. So because of the long treatment spanning 3 to 6 months in case of multi-drug resistance TB, in case of extremely drug resistant TB, so what happens is he has to visit to district hospital every day, foregoing his wages, if he is a daily laborer, if he is a rickshaw puller. So people, like poor people, they drop off the regimen of say 3 to 6 months because it is quite long. That is why now, if the diagnosis is going on at the secondary level hospital, district level hospital, or city level hospital, still the overall treatment can be availed from the nearby primary health center, which is now called as Ayushman Arogya Mandir, thereby eliminating the need to visit district hospital every 15 days, 20 days. This has increased the rate of people suffering from TB completing their TB regimen. Earlier, people would drop off in between. After completing 1 month of treatment, severity of cough will go down, severity of TB will go down. They will stop going to the hospital. This lead to another grave situation where Indian TB patients started suffering from extremely drug resistant TB, which was difficult to cure. So that is why the nearby availability of the centers in the form of Ayushman Arogya Mandirs has served the cause of TB as well. Addressing private sector involvement. Now the writer says that even though we are celebrating this achievement, that number of TB cases have come down, number of deaths owing to TB have come down, but there is a cause of worry that over 50% TB patients, they have to seek private care because of non-availability of Ayushman Arogya Mandirs. Then efforts are needed to strengthen referrals from private to public systems. And then Ayushman Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana coverage for TB care is very, very crucial here. Okay, so this coverage needs to be extended further to all the uncatered blocks. villages, etc. Now coming here, strengthening the person-centered care, scaling up interventions that address the social and clinical vulnerabilities. So social vulnerabilities, people of uh, poor income, you can say the bracket, okay, lower middle income class, economically weaker section. So this is the social milieu. People who are into tobacco and cigarette or smoking, they are more vulnerable, okay. And clinical vulnerabilities, the contagion effect of this TB, okay. One person suffering from communicable disease TB will spread it to others. Then learning from successful state level programs like Tamil Nadu TB program. Then focusing on vulnerable population, tribal communities, migrants, homeless people, strengthening the basic health system infrastructure. So this is strengthening the person centered care. So individual centered care, even though at the institutional level we have seen improved diagnostics and nearby treatment, but at the individual level some steps are needed. Recognizing intersectionalities, addressing the impact of gender, age, caste, disability and socio-economic status on TB outcomes. Then implementing gender responsive approaches. So gender responsive, if a person is female, there is less likelihood of that person going for the treatment. Why? Because female members in the lower income families, they are not taken seriously. But if the male member is suffering, he is the income, he is the breadwinner, so treatment will be there. But the problem with the male member is there that since he is the sole breadwinner in most of the cases, he will not be able to follow upon the entire TB, the regimen that is there for 3 to 6 months, sometimes to 9 months, because of wage loss, because he will have to forego his work in order to complete the TB treatment. Now improving understanding of TB and disability, so these things are there. Now writer says that integrated care has to be there, integrating TB screening with other health screening, okay. This COPD, asthma, depression, hypertension, etc. Whenever a person goes to hospital for any of these diagnoses, asthma, etc., he should also be tested for TB directly rather than waiting for the TB to happen. Integrated testing should be there, utilizing AI enabled chest x-rays. So artificial intelligence could be so programmed, could be so applied that automatically the AI models will tell that by screening the x-ray, they will tell that the person is yes having the TB, okay, based upon the congestion in the chest, or AI model can be so trained, congestion in the chest, or the sputum blocking the bronchitis, bronchus of the person, okay, so that can be done. Then this will enable the cheap treatment and the cheaper diagnosis at a cheaper price, because our laboratories, they charge exorbitant amount of money for even a simple x-ray for diagnosing TB. But if AI would be employed, so what will happen, the cost of x-ray will come down, and diagnosis, the testing would be proper in the sense that the testing would not be subjective in the form of doctor or some radiologist, whosoever is there, you looking at the x-ray, his subjective interpretation would not be there. So elimination of the subjectivity will be another advantage that will flow from AI enabled x-rays. Then minimizing out of pocket expenditure. So we need to understand that most of the sufferers of TB belong to the poor strata of the society. They cannot spend so much on the drugs, TB drugs, which are otherwise very costly. So TB drugs should be available to the people in their neighborhood, this Ayushman Arogya Mandirs, primary health centers only. Then integrating the programs like Nikshay Poshan Yojana. Nutritious diet is the key to immunity and resilience against drugs like the diseases like tuberculosis. Okay, so if we have Nikshay Poshan Yojana being made available to the people suffering from tuberculosis, if we are eradicating malnutrition overall, then that helps build the population's the resilience towards the disease like tuberculosis. Okay, so this is the program which gives nutrition to the people. So adequate nutrition can help the TB patients beat the disease in a in an efficacious manner, improving information access, promoting public awareness of TB through science-based information campaigns, addressing stigma and misconceptions. So people in rural areas, people from lower strata of society, they do not feel good that they are being labeled as TB patients. Okay, the stigma needs to be eradicated by chipping in some celebrities to spread the awareness about the tuberculosis. Then disseminating knowledge about drug resistant TB and AMR. Okay, so here the problem is telling people that if you drop off from the TB treatment after a few months, you will become extremely drug resistant case. Your TB will become multi-drug resistant, and if dropped further, they will become extremely drug resistant TB patients. It will be very difficult to cure. So enabling people to take an informed decision about completing the treatment within the first 3 months itself, within the very first move itself, rather than postponing it to the next level. Leveraging, because the first line of defense drugs, first line of defense, okay, the first line of drugs should be should be completed rather than waiting for the second and third one. Now, the rapid and widespread dissemination of scientific information during COVID, it provides a model. We have already done it in the COVID. It's not that this is something new. Since we have gained enough experience while managing COVID as to how to maintain social distancing, how to have your own oral hygiene, wearing a mask, etc. So these lessons that were learned during the COVID need to be deployed properly for eradication of tuberculosis as well. Similar multi-platform communication strategies, multi-platform, celebrity, Prime Minister himself talking about it, Health Minister himself talking about it, then the lower cutting edge level functionaries, DM, SDM, and Chief Medical Health Officers, nurses, Anganwadi nurse midwives, spreading the information about it. Okay, encourage, now talking about Anganwadi nurse midwives, we need to take care of their incentives as well. Now, encourage early care seeking rather than postponing it, promoting simple transmission reduction measures like wearing a mask. Okay, so simple transmission reduction mechanisms are needed so that this communicable disease is not spread to the others in the society. So these are all there. This editorial we are skipping out for the day. This is not that important. How global warming is affecting the world's mountain ranges. So for today, what we have done is we have analyzed around 3 editorials and 2 news articles. Every day this will be even more holistic. I will make it more holistic provided you answer all the questions and let us know your feedback. If 1.5 hours or 1 hour 15 minutes of DNA, but holistic DNA along with the questions being posted at Telegram and you guys are answering it in the comment section, will make it a one-stop solution for you all. Okay, so if you are on in for this thing for a bit longer DNA but covering the editorials and the news articles, do let us know in the comment section. Okay, every day now onwards it will be held at 8 to 8:15 a.m. and will stretch for 1 hour to 1 hour 15 minutes every day. This is all for today's news analysis. Thank you guys. Have a good day. Bye bye. PDF will be uploaded on the Telegram channel Jatin Verma Sir PW Only IAS, the link of which is given in the description box of this video itself. Thank you. Bye bye. Jai Hind guys.